And we're back for another break. All right. Hello, viewer, listener, and welcome back to Break, the Fallthrough After Show. Matt and I just had a very monologue-heavy episode, so if you haven't watched or listened to that, just go listen to that. I think there were some great monologues in there. No idea which ones are going to be supporter only. If you're not a supporter already, you should definitely become one. We've had some great supporter only content, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think that was a fun episode. That did not go. I honestly thought we would have way more to talk about when it came to the Cloudflare thing than I think we actually did. So I think that shows how much of like a unproblematic thing. It was like an incident happened. They're gonna happen, but there's nothing underneath that for me to dig into, I guess, really.
Yeah, it didn't have to turn into primetime news. It was just like, Cloudflare did a good job handling it all and putting everything up there for us to see and being transparent. So like, what else do you have to say on that, right? Like, define the outage. Here's what happened. Good job, Cloudflare. Stop saying Rust is bad. Stop saying other languages would have solved it. Like, that's basically the gist of everything, right?
Yeah. I think it's like a human nature thing that we just got to figure out how to fix, or at least shift in the industry of like, people always want to just blame. They want simple solutions to things. They want basic solutions to things. And I keep finding myself in
and they want to say just, right? Like if you just did that one thing, you wouldn't have had this problem, right? If you just did that. And like, that's just not how life works, man.
Yeah, it's a mistaken understanding, I think, at the end of the day, where it's really easy for people to see the problems, but they don't see the benefits as easily. Like, no one notices when things are working correctly. Everybody just assumes they should be working correctly. And it's when they stop working correctly that everybody's like, oh, well, if you just did this other thing. And it's like, yeah, but if we just did this other thing, then all this other stuff that's been working correctly would not have worked correctly. And then you would have said, oh, if you had just done the thing that we did do, and then we're back to this problem, right? It's like, there's a lot of nuance you got to deal with here, and people just don't want to deal with nuance on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, and the same thing could be said the other way, right? Like, because people are like, you don't know that. It could have been better. It's like, yeah, it could have been. But now we're in hypotheticals. We don't have the data for that. Like, you're changing so many variables that the discussion is no longer productive. So like, sure, but also no. Yeah, it's very easy for people to fall into that sort of trap, and I see it just everywhere. Not even just like in the technology space, but just in general. Like, people have their favorite brands, right? They'll only buy Hermes, or they'll only buy Louis Vuitton, or they'll only buy a Rolex, or they'll only buy a Volkswagen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just why? Like, why? Is it because you really like the brand for a certain reason, or is it because you have one and you don't want to break the collection? Like, or did you do some research, or are you trying to impress others? And we do that in programming languages too. And I don't know. It's just I question whether people are making decisions for themselves or not, or if they're trying to like impress other people or something. Like, just do the thing because you want to do it, and because whatever factors you determined were useful came to the conclusion of that. Like, just do that thing. But you can't tell people that, because then then you're the problem.
It's funny because there are some cases where it's like, oh no, it does make sense to like power tool ecosystems. It's like, yeah, they're all good, right? When Milwaukee or DeWalt or Makita or Ryobi, or like, they're all basically good these days. But like, you gotta pick one, because otherwise it's going to be
the battery ecosystem,
buying so many different types of batteries, and you have so many different chargers. It's like, hey, just pick a battery ecosystem and then you stick in it. So yeah, it's like, in that case, it does make sense to be like, okay, sorry, like, I just buy Milwaukee stuff because I have like 40 M18s, and I don't want to have to get into a whole new ecosystem. Like, that seems annoying. And it's like, yeah, no, that's where it makes sense, when there's like a good reason for you to be locked into an ecosystem, when you're actually gaining something from that. Whereas I think when it comes to like programming languages, especially, like, it's always been weird that there's this Go and Rust beef. And like, I remember thinking it in the past, but now that I think back on it, I'm like, it's so stupid. Why? These languages are not in conflict with each other, and they never have been. They were never meant to be used for the same thing. It's like being mad that
Yeah.
like JavaScript and PHP and being like, if you're a JavaScript person, you can't like PHP. If you're a PHP person, you can't like JavaScript. It's like, no, these two things have been intimately connected for like a very, very long time. They are entangled with each other and have been. So it's like, we should not, like the whole Go versus Rust thing, like never should have happened in the first place. And we should really, really like back off all of the level. We should reduce the level of hostility between the communities at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it also just prevents like my biggest thing about all this stuff, like the power tools example is a fantastic one because like, yeah, I have a Ryobi set that's like cheap and like half of them broke anyway, don't care. So I'm like actively looking for my first power tool set that's gonna put me in the battery ecosystem. And I'm just doing some research and whatever. And you know, I'm kind of leaning on Milwaukee mostly, but that's, you know, there's some subjectivity in there because I like red. Right. So, you know, there's emotions always gonna be part of these things. But like having these sort of hard stances on these things, the problem with it overall is it prevents us from having a good discussion on the actual use cases and differences for these things. Right. Because you always devolve into some Go sucks, Rust is the way. Rust sucks, Haskell for life. Haskell sucks, Zig is the new thing. Like you always devolve into that rather than saying, hey, I'm using Go for these things and it's actually really good. Rust was kind of shaky in these areas. But then these other things I was doing, Rust was like fantastic and Go really sucked. And like it prevents us from just having the real conversations around that because it always devolves into like the flame war style, you know, programming language wars or whatever. And it's just that's not useful to anybody.
No.
But I don't know how you fix that. That's human nature, right? That happens with sports teams and like other brands, like your car, the car you drive. Oh, why'd you buy a Volkswagen? You should have bought a Toyota. Why'd you buy a Toyota? You should have bought a Honda. Why'd you buy a Honda? You could just, it's just an infinite circle of why did you do this? You should have done that. And it's never ending. So like, what's the point, you know? But yet we do it as humans.
Yeah, it's just in human nature. I mean, it's funny because I think like the crux of the problem is that humans, I think in some ways we do believe that we are gods or we are deities and that like how we have defined things is how the universe actually works, right? Like I always go back to the fact that like we don't know what a tree is or what a fish is. Like we can't define those things in a stable way that works across disciplines and intuitively. Like we all think that we know what a tree is. We all think we know what a fish is. But when you actually sit down and try to categorize these things, especially when you try to categorize them between the different scientific disciplines, you just wind up with it being like, no, you can't actually, like, you cannot make a category that has everything that you would think is a tree in it without things that are not trees, or exclude the things that are not trees without excluding things that you would say are a tree. Like you can't make that because we didn't sit down when we defined what a tree was and have omniscient knowledge to know all of these different properties, all of these different things. We just said that thing looks like a tree. Oh, that thing also looks like a tree. Oh, that thing also looks like a tree. And we kind of put them together. Same thing with fish. Same thing with so many other things that we've done. The same thing that we're doing with AI now. Oh, that thing looks like AI, so we'll put it in there. Well, we had that thing before we started saying AI, so that thing's not AI. It's like we keep doing it over and over, and it's not a problem that we do that. The problem is believing that that is like a fundamental truth. Well, we've done it with other things like race and gender and all of that, where we're like, these are fundamental truths. And it's just like, these are things that we observed and we put into categories. Our observations are fallible. Very, very fallible. We all need to recognize that and be like, we can be wrong, and we often are very wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. It's okay that we do not have a consistent definition of what a tree is. It does not make the term tree useless. It just means that you have to add context to make sure you now want to understand what is being talked about when you are saying tree or fish or anything. And I think the broader problem will always be people's apprehension to the change. Right, to our changing understanding. Like people that are like still upset that Pluto is not a planet. And it's like, well, you're upset that Pluto's not a planet because you grew up with Pluto being a planet. You not like you're upset not because that's the main reason people are upset, right?
Right. Yeah. Like I can care less about that, or I don't care at all about that. Sorry, I can care less is not the right phrasing, but it's such a common phrasing.
Oh yeah, I couldn't care less about it, but people say I could care less.
Yeah,
it's the same thing with when people say literally, they mean figuratively. It's just language.
Literally though.
Yeah. But no,
I don't care. I don't care at all about Pluto thing. But you're totally right. You know,
we were like, ooh, if we include Pluto as a planet, there's a lot of other things that look like planets or more planet-like than Pluto up there, and we go from like 9 planets to like 2,000 planets. So it's just better to just say we have 8 planets now.
Yep.
And that's that. Like, there's a good reason that someone didn't wake up and be like, fuck Pluto, and just like, kick it out of the planet group. No, there's a reason that we said that Pluto isn't a planet anymore. And that's true like so many other things in life. And it's like, we all got to keep growing and moving and learning and expanding our knowledge, and people just don't wanna. And I think it's also interesting when this happens intergenerationally, right? Like, I think a lot of millennials and Gen Z people are coming around to the reality that like owning a home sucks and that renting is actually not terrible. Because a lot of people, especially a lot of boomers, are like, no, you should want to own your own home. I'm like, do you know how much work it is to own a house? Do you know how annoying, like how much of a self-own goal having a mortgage is? Like, have you looked at the interest rate of mortgages? Like that math does not work out in your favor. And you're complaining about paying rent and you getting nothing out of it. Look how much money you're giving to the bank just to get a mortgage, just to have a house that you then have to maintain and fix. And they can still all take it away from you. Like, there's a whole bunch of things. There's a bunch of assumptions people made about home ownership. And it's just like, those were never true. They just appeared to be true. And they're especially not true now. They're even more untrue now. And it's fine to rent. You're not throwing away your money by renting. That's a very silly thing. But like, younger people are adjusting to that reality, because like buying a house is freaking impossible right now. Like, and these interest rates are god awful. Like, I would not want to buy a house with these interest rates. I'm like, do you know how much money you're going to give to the bank with an interest rate like this? Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you at all. But like, people still feel like, no, owning your own home is like one of the things you should want. And I'm like, it's a pain in the ass. Even owning your own apartment is a pain in the ass. Like, once again, if your fridge breaks, if your dryer breaks, if your hot water heater breaks, like, you got to go fix that. That's on you. That's entirely on you. I know if you're people like you and me that like enjoy this type of stuff and like would build a house if we had the time and energy to do so, that's fine, right? If you're someone that wants to do all that work, great. That makes a home ownership make a lot of sense. If you're actually going to do stuff, knock down some walls, run new wiring, upgrade your plumbing, redo a bathroom, redo a kitchen. If that's the type of person you are, owning makes like 100% sense. Make complete sense. But if you're not, if you're someone that like is not going to know how to do basic electrical and plumbing and you don't want to learn, if you're not someone that's going to set aside money to like, pay when your water heater breaks or when you need to upgrade your boiler or, whatever, like, home ownership's not for you. Like, rent, it will make your life so much simpler and so much easier. But like, people don't want to hear that. they got
it's
told a story
relevant
when they were young, and
it's relevant to the Cloudflare outage, or just the outages in general, right? Like, if you don't want to take on all the value that these places are providing you, you need to pay them to provide you the value. And you need to kind of, I don't want to say sit down and shut up so bluntly, but like, you kind of need to sit down and shut up when they have problems. You know what I mean? Like, it just is what it is. If you're a renter and you don't have to, if it's not your responsibility to fix the water heater or whatever, then like, and the landlord's out for today and they can't get someone to fix the water heater today and it has to be tomorrow instead, so you're out of water for that day. Like, that's it. Like, that's the risk, right? That's right. Part of the risk thing. Yes, it sucks, but like, you also didn't have to fix anything else either, right? So it's those trade-offs, and just being aware of that is super important. And people don't like to do that. People like to compare the best case pro argument with the worst case con argument, right? And use that as like, see, this is why this is better. It's like, okay, man, you compared the best against the worst. Of course it's better. Like, in this one contrived example, like, no, I can do that too. I'm better. I'm faster than a baby. I can run faster than a baby. No problem. All day. Every day.
All day, every day.
All day, every day. I can run faster than any baby out there.
And like, it's interesting how like when you talk about where you live, renting and owning, like it's probably better for people right now to rent than to own. It's kind of inverted for your cloud compute infrastructure, right? Because it's like, yeah, the cloud is like ridiculously expensive. It's so expensive right now. And like, it's not that hard to get into a colo or even just do VPSs, right? Like those things are like way cheaper these days. And you're like, I mean, especially if you just put Cloudflare in front of it, like what are you losing? Or if you have your own infrastructure, you put Cloudflare in front of it, or Bunny or Akamai or any of these things, like what are you actually losing, right? How much of this do you actually need? And the math, I think, works much better if you're like a business that's going to be around for a while to have rack and stack some servers and have them running. Like servers are incredibly resilient. Like I've had servers in my apartment that I've had up for more than a year, right? Like you can run them for a very long period of time without having to do a lot of maintenance on them. And it's
I think
like
people forget about that. Like that's why computers were really made, right? Is so that we can like run them longer and more reliable than we could human labor for the same thing. Like that's the whole point, right? Like set it and forget it to some extent. Obviously, you need patches and blah blah blah.
Yeah, you need to do updates.
Yeah, that's generally the thing.
Yeah, and it's like I think people don't do actual cost calculation or actual calculation at the end of the day. And that's what we need to all start doing. We need to actually sit down and be like, okay, what are all of, like, give me all the numbers I need to know. Give me all the perspectives I need to have. I need to come to like an actual smart decision around all of this. And that applies in, your life. Once again, buying versus renting. Like gotta run some numbers. You gotta run some scenarios to figure out which one you should do. Same thing with like which job you should take, with where you should be cloud or on-prem. There's like all these decisions. And I think at the end of the day, people don't want to do the work because it is tedious work. But like, hey, we have LLMs now that can do a lot of the monotonous work for us, or at least jumpstart us down the path of the monotonous work, right? You can go tell an LLM to go, or you can talk to an LLM and have them, have a conversation with them about which one you should do, and they can help guide you with that and all of that, right? That's why, I feel there's something going to be a controversial opinion that like LLMs are basically human, but not. I think that can get taken really out of context, as in saying like they are humans. They're not humans in the full sense, but they are humans from like that social sense, I guess I would say. Like the way you interact with them is much more human than like other systems. Because I think it really is a spectrum of human to God, right? Human to deity. And it's like they are on the human side of things. And we should treat them like that. And we should understand them as those types of systems. Once again, humans are fallible. They are very fallible. And we find ways to get around human fallibility. It's with system design and system thinking and auditing and a whole bunch of other stuff that we do to make it so that we can build big, large systems that don't collapse and kill people, right?
Yeah. Human and process and material fallibility too. Like we're not always using this. This is good discussion point, and I don't want to like break into a show by discussing this in super depth, but like this is part of the thing where I feel like in the technical engineering industries, specifically more software engineering, we have this sort of idea that like software is free and it's cheap to manufacture and blah, blah, blah. And that usually leads to we're going to use the best material and the best design for the problem all the time. Like, and in real life, you don't do that. You can't actually do that.
Right.
Because using the best materials or process or whatever, or even humans, right? Like even the best skilled people is not a possibility in the real world. You can't get the best general contractor to build you the best house in the best way with the best materials. You just can't do that. It's impossible because the physical constraints are alone. It's impossible. But yet in software, we tend to say like we're going to do the best of all of these things all the time, and we don't really let that like fallibility become a discussion point. Like, hey, actually, we don't have 5 years to do this. We only have 5 days. I mean, we do talk about the time constraint usually, but We don't always talk about the programming language constraint, the resource constraint from a human perspective of like who's actually going to work on this thing, how much time do we have. Like we don't talk about these things nearly as much. It's just mostly one dimension, and then everything else is like assumed to be using the best thing for the thing. And
Right.
we should try to change those discussions as an industry.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I mean, I think it probably starts with like getting rid of the concept of best, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like best is the only acceptable best is when it's like a category of things, like a large span of like the best, there's no such thing as the best author. There are the best authors in the world, right? And of all time, right? But that's a large group of people. And I think the reality is that you have to add the constraints and the context to it. It's like, you can't build the best house because what the best house is depends on what you're optimizing for, right? Are you trying to build like the most innovative house, the most weather sealed house? Are you trying to build the best house for a family or for a single person? Are you trying to build, a house with a basement or just a crawl space or there's like so many different ways that you can build things and do things that trying to be like, well, what's the best way to do this thing is like a hyper optimization that requires you to like ignore a lot of the context and constraint that you really have to deal with at the end of the day. Yeah. And it's like, how about you just figure out what is the thing that you need to build? And there's a range, right? There's definitely a range of materials, right? Okay, this material would be worse for the thing I'm trying to do. This one would be better. But that doesn't mean you can't use the worst material. There might be a reason why you need to use the worst material. Maybe there's cost or supply or something else. And you're like, okay, well, I can't use the best thing or the better thing because it's just there's another constraint that's preventing me from doing it. So then in that case, it's not the best thing because it's not available, right? You got to go use this other thing because it is available.
Yeah.
And people just don't think in that way. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah, there's a quote around this in the construction sort of industry, and I don't know if this quote is credited or whatever, but I've heard it. And looking it up online, the quote is, "Any idiot can build a bridge that stands, but it takes an engineer to build a bridge that barely stands." And like, it's true, right? Like, because the engineer, like, first of all, if you want to build something that stands, you're gonna build it. You're gonna construct the thing, build the thing, use the materials you have, and test the load that you're gonna put on it, and be like, yes, this is great. Or way over engineer it to the point where it's like, whoa, dude, like of course it's not gonna break. You made it out of metal. Like you didn't need to do that. But on the engineering side, like that involves looking at everything holistically and saying, hey, where is this bridge being built? What materials are conducive to that? What's the cost for this? Who's paying for it? What's the load going to go across this bridge? What's the timeline for this stuff? And in engineering, for software engineering, we have to have the same discussions. Back to our point about like holistic sort of thinking and the range book and all that stuff. You have to think that way because you have finite resources to use. And there is a time where you can say, hey, actually, this project is going to be written in Rust because we have a bunch of Rust talent. And we can't afford to spend time on learning a new paradigm for a new language for this project because it has to go out quickly. Like that's fine. As long as you've discussed that and brought it to the table. And now you're doing this sort of engineering thinking where you're saying, okay, language choice, done. What else? Oh, timeline, done. Oh, what else? Like deployment, done. And you have to see it this way. And the end product is a bridge that quote unquote barely stands because you didn't over-engineer it, for every possible case, but you did talk about those things, but you also didn't under-engineer it because you understood the requirements exactly, and you met them in a way that's best for all of the holistic requirements coming together. Yeah, like that's the thinking we need more of. That's it. That's it. Sounds so simple, but it's not easy, right?
Yeah. No, we definitely have a lot of things we got to face as an industry, and I think we just got to do better. In general, I think what Cloudflare did at the end of the day is that they did do better, right? They are the fourth major outage that we've had this year. And I think that they are the ones that handled this with like the most grace at the end of the day. And the big cloud providers, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, could all learn a whole lot of stuff from how Cloudflare handled this whole thing.
Agreed.
I mean, just Amazon, if you could just fix the font size and the wrapping of your postmortems, that would be great. Because you open one of those things, you're like, why is this in like 8-point font? Like, what is this?
That is a valid case to use the word just. Like, honestly, because that's literally that costs nothing to do. Just go fix.
It's like, this does
use
not
use an inline style. I don't care how you do it.
It's like, why is your line length like 2,000 words with like negative 5-point font? Like, what is this?
Yep. Okay. See, listener, viewer, this is the type of thing. This is what gets us going. It's these things, you know?
Typography.
Yeah. It's typography. It's kerning. It's all of these things. It's like, just do it right. I mean, but there is research that supports that. Like, that's why like books are so nice to read sometimes, because your eyes don't have to scan. Like, if I were to put the website on my widescreen monitor and I'm literally turning my head to read an entire sentence, that is just really, like, really though.
No, typography. We should do an episode of typography at some point, because there's so much stuff.
You know what? I think I have someone that would really like to talk about this too.
Yeah, we should. Because I remember being like, why are papers, like research papers, like, the type we have in tech a lot, why are they 2 columns instead of just 1 column? And it turns out like it's because of typography, and like when you have 2 columns, you can actually put the lines closer together than when you have 1 column. So by putting 2 columns, you actually fit more words per page than if you had a single column, while still making it readable. And I was like, oh, that makes sense, because like typography is like so complex. You just how to like lay things out on a page, like an individual page. Like, this is why you have typesetters, because it's like there's a lot of complex stuff going on to make it so it's a pleasant thing to read, which is one of those hidden things that people just never really think about. But it's like, a well typeset page with good typography, good website, like that will make it so much better to read than one that has poor typography. Which, I mean, the perfect example is like the AWS postmortem page versus the Cloudflare blog posts. Like, well, Cloudflare blog post, joy to read. AWS postmortem page, just give it to me as a PDF and format it well, please.
No, agreed. I'm literally reaching out to this person right now.
Let's do it.
I agree. There's the US graphics company out there that makes Berkeley Mono font. I don't know if it's just like one person or whatever, but they have their most social media account, and they post some bangers. They're like, this is an offense to God himself. Like, you can't do this. But like, I kind of agree. I like their design choice and whatnot. And we don't talk enough about that. We just put random things together. And like, again, that's holistic thinking, but more focused on the typography user experience from a reading perspective space. But it is holistic thinking. You can't just write the word on your poster. Like, my wife and I do this all the time when we're looking at things for the chocolate shop, and she's okay with like making a poster with whatever font. I'm like, no, you got to use your brand's fonts. You got to keep your brand's themes in there. She's like, oh, I just want to get it done. I'm like, yeah, I know you want to get it done, but that's what makes the holistic experience of your shop nice. Everyone's looking like, oh, all the signage like has the same fonts and the same sort of patterns and blah, blah, blah. Like, this looks pretty. Someone thought about this. And it really does elevate your brand, right? Like, you don't go into these nice high-end stores and see, Arial font everywhere or Times New Roman or whatever. You see a cohesive experience.
Yeah. No, we need more people like design more typefaces, and there's so much cool stuff out there, and people should be paying for the typefaces they use and the fonts they use, and not just getting them for free everywhere.
Right.
Because it's hard work. Actually making a font is.
Yeah, I know. When I told people, they asked me when I post YouTube videos and I share my terminal and blah, 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 and they see my font. They're like, what font is that? Berkeley Mono. Oh, is it free? No, it's paid. Why would you pay for a font? I don't know, because my job literally involves me looking at text almost all day. And I want that text to be pleasing to my eyes and scannable for my eyes. Not every font is scannable for me. I can't, there's some fonts where I'm like, whoa, I cannot even look at this.
Yeah. So
I tested fonts and I found that one to be great. And I was happy to pay however much it was. I have like the developer tier license, right? Like, whatever it was, I don't know, $70, 90, I don't even remember the price. But for me, that's a drop in the bucket compared to like my salary plus my years that I'm gonna be using this thing.
Right.
Who cares, man? Like
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think we're right at the 30-minute mark, so I think it's a good place to wrap for this break. Any last words before we end?
any last words before you have an outage? No. Yeah, I actually do have a last word. GitHub, we see you. Like the tech community sees you, GitHub. And you need to step up your game. You've been down a lot too. We haven't gotten to you yet, but like we see you. Okay.
I was like, what's going on, GitHub?
Yeah. We okay. Just know that we're seeing you.
Yeah. All right. Well, viewer, listener, thank you for joining us for this episode of Break. A smaller panel today, just me and Matt, but I think we had some really fun conversations and I think this is definitely one of our more deep and more nuanced conversations we've had. But what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments and on social media. This episode of Break featured Kris Brandow and Matthew Sanabria. Break is a Fallthrough Media production and is produced by Kris Brandow, and our beats are by Breakmaster Cylinder. Break too many times. So many times. And we're done. Successfully completed recording. Hooray.
We did it.